We're here at Westech Performance early in the morning, Tuesday, and guess what we're up to? Yes, that's right. We're gonna hit the dyno for tuning, and we're gonna get this truck taken care of.
Was a little too long. Let's cut that down to about 2 seconds. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna straighten the vehicle out of the dyno. So I'm gonna roll the wheels, let the truck settle itself in the rear. We'll strap it down and we'll begin tuning.
Okay.
We're getting a baseline based off of what the engine wants. So, just kind of like at idle, you follow vacuum and RPM, and you make changes without corrections in the background, and the engine will tell you what it wants for fuel and ignition timing only in the light load areas. Basically drivability in your idle area. The wide open throttle stuff, we're going to be able to find that out with the dyno.
Okay.
So we're just kind of getting a baseline. We're painting a picture of how the airflow is moving in the manifold, how the engine wants fuel introduced. So you kind of start painting a picture of the volumetric efficiency, and you sample a couple of spots and you just basically connect your dots, and it paints you a VE picture. And once we've established that, now we can get into an area where we can drive it, and we can sample those areas where we've made those corrections, and make sure that the engine wants that value, and then also to assure that our closed loop corrections are going to be near as zero as possible.
Okay. So just with the small corrections you did with the pinning for the map sensor and the IAC.
Yeah, the idle control valve and the the IAC. I mean, it's already it's already behaving. As you can tell, it's not even. You don't hear the huge, whistle coming from the engine anymore.
Yeah.
So you can hear more of the cam.
I love that.
And also we want to see, how much the camshaft will allow the engine, how low it will allow the engine to idle. Typically, it depends on the case. Since this is a manual, we can go as low as 80 kPa in vacuum, before the engine actually has a hard time recovering, like we were earlier when we were starting it. It came up and then immediately died.
Yeah.
Even though we had our timing and fuel mixtures correct. So that's telling you that it doesn't have a good base idle pedal position or throttle position in that case. Based off of the looks,
push it up 60, 64.
Yeah, it's going down to 49.
Okay.
So because the curve looks like a progressive downfall, it seems like it's a restriction to me. It's going to be awesome intake.
Hey, welcome back to One Tire Fire. We're going to talk about the 71 D100 today, the HEMI Swap Tremec 5-speed conversion. So we're at Westech a few days ago, and we're working on getting this thing dyno tuned. We did an initial run to get it warmed up, and once we got up to temperature, there was a couple things that needed to be taken care of. The first thing was the map sensor wasn't providing any data whatsoever. Ish quickly zeroed in on that and repinned it, and then we started to get some data from it. Then the next thing was IAC control, because you might have heard in previous videos, this thing was sucking down a whole bunch of air. Basically, the IAC solenoid wasn't working at all, and that also ended up being just a simple pin change. So 2 wires, 2 pins, boom, now we got data from it. Now it starts to actually work. One of the things that was noticed was that the fuel pressure was starting to drop under load, and that was killing our horsepower. We started to troubleshoot that, thinking that the pump internally was something was going on with it, but that ended up being not the case. The pump was 100% fine. And then lastly, the thing that we probably should have did the first time was we took a voltage check to see how many volts was reading during a pass, initially at startup and then during a pass. We found out during the pass the voltage basically just kind of fell on its face, and so we were losing horsepower there, so we corrected that as well. Now we're in a position where the tune was done. We now want to start adding some timing to the D100, and that's where we kind of made a mistake. I decided to spin it to 7200 RPM, and the motor did not like that. So obviously we should have stayed with what was recommended, which is about 6800 RPM, and kept it there. We got too close to the sun. We got a little bit greedy. But thankfully, nothing catastrophic, at least at this point, happened. We just sort of heard some noise in the valve train. And so I'm hoping that that's excluded or exclusive to a lifter on the passenger side. So in the next, pretty much over today, I got to undress the engine, completely disassemble it, pull the heads, and check the lifters and the push rods to see if anything is obvious. Hopefully, what we see is maybe a lifter is starting to go. So we got some work to do. I kind of considered at that moment when we were starting to have issues with the engine, considered taking this and disassembling that. That still may happen, but the problem is does that bell housing fit with our current bell housing? I know the top end, the fuel, and everything else will fit, but the kicker is the cam isn't swappable. So I would have to get a 6.4 cam, and therein lies the problem. Can probably overnight that, and that would be the optimal thing to throw this into the D100. But you know what? This 5.7 really performed. The last point at which we ramped it up before we hit that 7200 RPM, it was putting out 459 horsepower and 413.5 foot-pounds of torque without timing. So I think we just got a little greedy on the RPM. Obviously, we're on the other side of our power range and should have just kept it there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stay with this 5.7.